What's up, people? Back to the Check Hook Boxing Podcast. Today's segment is going to be on styles make fights. Anybody that knows anything about boxing knows that styles make fights. So, for the casual fans who you may have a favorite fighter and he fights somebody that you've never heard of, you've never heard of this person. So, you're expecting your favorite fighter to just go in and just run through this guy. And then when that doesn't happen, and then the propaganda comes behind, oh, he should have knocked this dude out, and he should have just ran through him, and all that. That's based on how you feel or how this person feels about this particular fighter. Now, again, just because you don't know this fighter or you've never seen his fight, you never heard of him, he's not a big name in the game, doesn't mean he can't fight. That's not what that means. That just means that he needs a better team, pretty much, especially if he's an exceptional fighter. And another thing that y'all have to understand, regardless of whether or not y'all have heard of this fighter before, he's a professional fighter. So he's not a walk in the park. And I say that because I've seen so much criticism about Tank's performance against Isaac Cruz. Bruh, that dude was rugged. He's tough. As opposed to talking about what Tank didn't do against this guy because you never heard of him and you just expected him to run through him. You should be talking about like, dang, he showed another layer to his game. He can move around. When the going gets tough, he gets going. That's what y'all need to be looking at as opposed to just focusing on what he didn't do. Focus on what he did do. Focus on Isaac Cruz too. That dude is rugged. And again, as the title state is going to state, styles make fights. You can't look good against certain type of fighters. If you a finesse fighter, you a jab, slip. You moving around, you turning them, you doing this and that, you throwing your sets, you backing out, you pulling counter. You know what I'm saying? You're not going to look good against a person who makes it extra difficult for you to be able to do that. That's why people train. That's why people study films. Okay, this guy, he likes to do this. He likes to lead with the jab, boom, boom, my double jab, boom, boom, step back. He throw an uppercut, this and that. So I know I have to smother his punches or I have to stay out of range. And that's what people don't understand. It's so crazy that people just expect one fighter who's a professional fighter to just run through another fighter who's a professional fighter. It doesn't work like that. They're professionals for a reason. They know how to get down. Y'all had to understand this, man. Stop demeaning and degrading people because you didn't get the performance that you want. You wasn't in there fighting. So I'm gonna ask y'all this. If you don't understand, I'm gonna break it down. Whether not ask y'all, but I'm gonna break it down, break something down to y'all as far as on the topic of styles making fights. So let me ask y'all something. Do y'all think Marcos Maidana, is a better fighter than Canelo Alvarez? Do y'all think that Marcos Maidana is a better fighter than Canelo Alvarez? I guarantee you at least 90% of y'all say, hell no, he's not. And I agree with you. However, when Marcos Maidana fought Floyd and when Canelo fought Floyd, who gave Floyd the harder fight? Who gave him the tougher fight? Marcos Maidana did. Why? Because styles make fights. Marcos Maidana was bulling in. He was throwing the overhand right. He roughing Floyd up. He didn't allow Floyd to just pat from outside, pat, counter punch. You know what I'm saying? Do the shoulder roll. He didn't allow him to do that as much as Canelo did. And it's not that when I say allow, I don't mean that they let them do it. What I mean is the game plan wasn't as successful as this person's game plan was. Again, training because they're professional fighters. Now, let me ask you another question. is, or do you think, in your opinion, that Ricardo Mayorga is a better fighter than Shane Mosley? Of course you don't. However, however, Ricardo Mayorga beat Vernon Forrest twice, and Vernon Forrest beat Shane Mosley twice. Why? Again, because styles make fights. Shane Mosley was smothered by Vernon Forrest. He's too long. He didn't know he didn't have the game plan to counteract or to prevent Vernon Forrest from utilizing his length. Pause. His arm length. He didn't allow him to do that. So he got in his grill and you know what I'm saying? He got with Shane. But when he fought Mayorga, Mayorga was smothering him. He was bulling in. He wouldn't let that length, pause, be as much as a factor, a determining factor in the fight. Vernon Forrest wasn't, rest in peace, Vernon Forrest, by the way. Vernon Forrest wasn't able to improvise and adjust to what Mayorga was doing. Hell no, Mayorga is not a better fighter than Shane Mosley. And proof of that is because Shane Mosley knocked Ricardo Mayorga out. So y'all got to understand, styles make fights. Y'all cannot keep just lumping and generalizing everything. That's like saying all black people steal or all white people are racist. You stop generalizing. You have to qualify things. And you sound like a fool when you just put things out publicly based on your assumption or your opinion. Stop misleading the public. Start trying to teach, and get some understanding. Now, another person. Let me tell you somebody else who people never look good against because of their style of fighting. I don't know if y'all know about him, but if y'all don't, go look him up. Emmanuel Augustus, a.k.a. Emmanuel Burton, a.k.a. the Drunken Master. The way he fights, he gave Floyd one of his toughest fights, if not the toughest, even tougher than Jose Luis Castillo, because of his style of fighting. He was so offset and off kilter. He moved different ways, his feints, his movement, his rhythm, his cadences. It's hard to time. You're taught as a boxer to learn how to time your person, get the distance right. It's not conventional. It's unorthodox. So it's not going to be cut and dry. It's not a cookie cutter fighter. Y'all have to understand that, man. As people need to stop misleading bloggers and these aficionados of the boxing game who you can clearly tell who their favorite fighter is based on the commentary. You can clearly tell that. Now, again, like I said, styles make fights. And people have to realize that. Stop just thinking that he got exposed. Just like with Teofimo Lopez and Kambosos. You thought their game plan was to go in and just bully this dude, walk him down, and this and that. But you didn't take into account that he's also a professional. And he has a team, a trainer that can say, okay, they probably going to try to do this to you. This is how we counteract it. It's the team's job to set up a game plan. It's the fighter's job to execute that game plan. And if that game plan is being negated, you have to be able to adjust on the fly. Styles make fights. We all, as boxing fans, we all have to learn the game and the strategy. It's called the sweet science for a reason. It's called the street science for a reason. And it was something else that I wanted to tell you about, as far as like I said, the Canelo, Maidana's not a better fighter than him, and all that. Now, let me ask you this. Let me pose this. If you have one professional fighter, you have another professional fighter, and they make the fight for these two to go to war in the ring. And the fighter that you prefer, all you see is what they're doing right. You don't really see what they're doing wrong because you're not watching the entire fight. You're watching your fighter. You're hoping he doesn't get knocked out and that he gets a knockout. So your perception is blurred. You have to be honest and you have to watch from honest eyes. And that way, you can have a better understanding of what this game really is. You don't play boxing. You play basketball. You play football. You play baseball. You play soccer. You don't play boxing. It's chess. It's strategic. It's the art of war. You have to outthink your opponent. Whoever is the smartest in the fight usually wins. I don't care how much of a disadvantage a fighter could be at. If they're smarter, 99.9% of the time, they're going to win. So all of you people have to understand that styles make fights. It's not as simple as, oh, he been knocking everybody out, so I know he going to run through this dude. Like, again, using the Tank situation, for instance. You training for 8 weeks, basically. You're training for Rolly Romero. He fights a certain type of way. So 8 weeks you've been focusing on negating what he does well, because any fighter should know the best way to defeat an opponent is whatever they do, you take that away from them. You don't allow them to do that. If people say, oh, Floyd, all he does is run around, it's not his job to stand in front of you and let you beat on him. It's your job and your trainer's job and your team's job to come up with a strategy that affords you that privilege. So with Rolly Romero, they were training for this. But then you get Isaac Cruz, and because nobody's ever heard of him, oh, he gonna kill this dude. And then when the fight becomes a tough fight, a test, you know what I'm saying, a test of will, y'all's all, you just write Tank off. That's crazy to me. That's my opinion on, that's my assessment of it. I'm not asking anybody to think the same way that I do. But you can't call me a liar and be telling the truth. I can tell you that. So when you're watching fights, man, you have to understand that this is more than just people just going out there beating the hell out of each other. Another fighter who is hard to look good against, or a couple of fighters, Shawn Porter is hard to look good against. Unless you just catch him, he's going to bull his way in. He's going to be throwing wild punches. He's going to make you earn it. He's going to make you earn it. You're not going to look the same way that you might look against a fighter who fights from the outside and he just want to, try to finesse it and slip punches and counter and this and that when you got somebody just bulling into you. You're not going to look as well. Psyche Obika, another person. It's hard to look good against this guy because he's so rugged and rough and he just wants all the contact. It's hard to look good against these fighters. So all I'm saying is I want people to, or I implore people to look further than your emotions or what you expect when you don't know somebody. How can you make an assessment on a fighter or say that this person should knock this person out simply because you have never heard of him or her or whatever the situation is? Come on, man. As fight fans, we get people say, "Oh, boxing is going away. It's losing. It's UFC. It's this and that." And the reason why, not taking anything away from UFC fighters, I wouldn't want to fight one of them, But you got the sweet science and you got the mixed martial arts, which means that you can use a plethora of things in mixed martial arts. You can't do that in boxing. You use your feet and you use your fists. You don't use elbows legally. You don't use elbows. You don't use headbutts. You don't use submission tactics. It's mano y mano. So take that into consideration and maybe you'll appreciate the training, the time, the hard work that these fighters put into this. I'm going to tell y'all a story. My brother, my older brother, my god brother, he boxed. He used to box at Columbus Park and Windy City Gym in Chicago. Now, when he would be training, I was his little brother, so he taking me, man, what you got to do? Oh, I probably go do this and do that. Now, come to the gym with me. So when you go to the gym, his trainer would say, hey, you can't be in here unless you training. So I might go outside and hoop a little bit, but then when I get, ain't no games going on or it's too much drama out there, whatever, I go back in the gym. So I had to start picking up. I had to put the gloves on or put the hand wraps on and learn the double jab, step into it, then throw your left hand. I'm a southpaw. So I had to learn this. I had to watch them. So when my brother was training for Golden Gloves, he wanted me to help him with his defense. He's not throwing any punches at me at all. He's working on his defense. Now, at this particular time, I'm in tip-top hooping shape. I can hoop from 11 o'clock in the morning to 7, 8 o'clock at night. I might go take a break, get something to eat or whatever, but I'm back at it. Boom, I was in good shape. I got in that damn ring, and like I said, he was not throwing punches. He was working on his defense. Each round is 3 minutes. By the middle of the second round, so we talking 4.5 minutes, I couldn't even raise my arms up. So y'all need to get some understanding about what it takes to actually be a professional fighter. It's not as simple as it looks. This your guy Mark Lavelle as Zale for Check Hook Boxing 100.